I think some of the biggest challenges in working in aviation is it's really you versus you. Every deal, every detail, comes down to how you're going to handle yourself and conduct yourself.
What initially drew you to business aviation? I knew you used to be a pastor, and so what drew you down this avenue?
Yeah, so for a long time, I had been a youth minister. I went to college and got a degree in theology. I also got a master's degree in systematic theology. And so religious studies and my faith were just going to be, what I was going to be doing moving forward. And I did that for about 10 years. And then I transitioned into the secular world, into videography and working for clients locally here in Florida, and then finally found myself at a music school as the manager for 3 years of sales and marketing. And I just found myself in a spot where I felt like I could be doing more and I could be making more. Frankly, we had a big family at the time, and we still have 5 kids, and it's just a lot living paycheck to paycheck. So we were looking for something new, something different, and I just happened to see an ad online that was for high ticket sales. And when I went to the job interview, discovered that it was actually selling pre-owned jets, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Yes, sir. That's awesome. I know a lot of people, they may not, they're not wanting to immediately get into the business aviation industry. They just kind of like fall into it and such. So
Right.
I know some people are concerned, like, can I get in the industry and such? But, it'll come to you, so to speak, in some
Yeah,
scenarios.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
And with resources like this, and what we're trying to do with Jet Life Aero, I mean, we're really pulling back the curtain to expose more people to it, because I feel like, rising tide lifts all ships. And if we can get more people that are really passionate about it, that didn't know it was an option, that's a win-win for everybody.
Yes, sir. I agree completely. And so I know probably the role of being a minister and then going off and then selling jets is quite different. So can you go and just describe a typical day or week as a jet broker?
So a typical day as a jet broker, when I was first starting out, it was basically show up at the office, make your cold calls, and try to find a book of business, try to find clients. And I was very mindful of making sure that I was the first person in and I was the last person out. The goal was 100 calls a day, and that was more just like a target that, it wasn't like you get fired if you didn't hit it, but it was 100 calls a day, and I was probably averaging around 60, 70, 80 calls a day with fruitful conversations. And that's really it for the first year. I was just put my head down and make those phone calls. And then as things kind of evolved, yeah, now you start to get busy with your listings, you're handling buyers, you have planes that are under contract, due to close, due to go to pre-buy, and then you're marketing yourself, to get more listings. So it becomes much more of a juggling act. And so the way that I tell our broker students is that, the skill set to make your first $10,000 is just put your head down, smile, and dial. The skill set to make your first $50,000 is, okay, do that and over until you have 10 listings. The skill set to make $100,000 is do that over and over again while juggling deals. It's more of a time management thing, but you start to see your evolution as just developing different skill sets one at a time.
Right, yes, sir. I think a lot of people think that whenever they, if they were to go into aircraft sales and such, they can immediately just have this whole connection set up for them. And, you immediately start selling jets straight out the door, but it may not be that case.
Right.
It may take a year or so to sell your first aircraft.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And I know you mentioned something about students. Do you sell a course by any chance?
Yeah. So one of the nice things about what we're doing is that I really, because I was a youth minister, I've also dabbled as a personal trainer at one point in time. I was a high school substitute theology teacher. I was a soccer coach. I really do enjoy coaching, mentoring, training, teaching, however you want to put it. And so when I first started on my own brokerage about 2 years ago, I was making a lot of content, and people were asking me, Tom, can you teach me how to be a broker? And so I took a step back and I said, yeah, actually I could. And so the last about year and a half, I spend a lot of my time, instead of selling jets, working on creating a course, creating a platform where people can go and just find out more about becoming a jet broker. So we have, circle.jetlifearrow.com, where it's completely free. People can ask questions about becoming a broker. There's resources there. There's a discussion thread where people can ask their questions in the forum. We're really passionate about changing the way that brokers are educated and trained, that they're compensated. Like if you work with me, there's an interesting a commission split that we do, and most importantly, how they conduct themselves in the marketplace. I think those three components are really important because there's some missing elements in the current aviation marketplace, and that's what we're trying to address.
Right, yes, sir. I think this is the first of its kind almost, because I know, especially with aircraft sales, you may not want to immediately just like raise someone that may immediately be your competition, but that's awesome that you're helping, the next generation get into this industry and such.
Yeah, I always felt like, competition is not necessarily a bad thing as long as it's a level playing field and no one's being, shady about it. If you outwork me, well, that's my fault.
Right,
That's
yes,
not your fault. I'm not going to hate you for that. Like that challenges me to be better, and I think that that's just my mindset.
Well, I think you're doing pretty good though with Jet Life Arrow and such, and the little courses you have and such, and then also your book too, the Jet Guide too. So
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Last year we wrote the book, The Ultimate Jet Guide, specifically for buyers because we were dealing with a lot of first time jet buyers. But it's a great primer for anyone who's interested in learning how aviation works. I mean, it's 99 cents on Kindle. You can go check it out. And it's a great introduction. I mean, a lot of people tell me they read it in a day or two. I'm like, wow, I should have made it more difficult, I guess.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so, while working in this industry, what are the biggest challenges and the biggest rewards when working in the industry?
I think some of the biggest challenges in working in aviation is it's really you versus you. Every deal, every detail, comes down to how you're going to handle yourself and conduct yourself. So I think integrity is really important. And what I find for a lot of young people is self-awareness can be a challenge. And I think that's just across the board. I mean, it's not the new generation or anything like that. It's just self-awareness in general is a skill that not a lot of people look at. And so I think where you have bad actors in aviation or difficult people to work with is because they're not self-aware, or they're so self-aware that they become self-absorbed and they're unable to work with others. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges in aviation because there is no license or certification to be a jet broker, so anyone can do it. And you find yourself in these deals where there's no normal. There's no, this is how it's normally done. This is like how it's usually done, but every deal can be different. And so if you're not self-aware and you don't take responsibility for how to get the job done, that's when you find yourself in trouble.
Yes, sir. I mean, I remember I went to NBAA base in Las Vegas in October. I remember there was one aircraft salesperson I went up to and tried to talk to him, and he was like, "You're in college, basically. Don't talk to me." And it was quite alarming. I was like, "Whoa."
Really?
I know it was very interesting, but I had never even heard of the person before, and I know it was kind of funny. And then I looked up their company, and they weren't, and they've been in the industry for like 30 years, and they weren't an IATA certified broker. So I don't know. So
Yeah, yeah.
mhm. And so, while working in the industry, have you noticed any industry changes since you first started?
I think there is a movement away from the old guard. There's a movement away from the boys' club, if you will, because that's been something that's been criticized in aviation for a while. And I think part of what I'm doing as far as pulling back the curtain is just kind of a trend. It's a trend that more and more people want to see transparency, more and more people want to see integrity. And, I get more comments about sharing my faith, sharing my background in ministry, positive comments than anything else. People kind of resonate with that. So I think with the advent of the internet and stuff, I think aviation, as advanced as it is technology wise and ecosystem wise, I think that the new money, the new clients, the new ecosystem that we're going to go into is more geared towards transparency, integrity, and things of that nature. So the ones that are, I think that we still have probably another decade of kind of the old guard, if you will. But I think you're starting to see a little bit of that shift of transparency, integrity. Data is also another big thing. As things become more data driven, you can make more decisions. So those would be three trends that I'm seeing right now.
Yes, sir. I know also the rise of artificial intelligence coming up and such. I feel like aircraft market research is going to completely get changed because, instead of having a market researcher make massive spreadsheets and such, you just get an AI to just get all the information and compile it. So it'll take seconds, not hours. So,
Hmm.
can you describe to me a time where you had to go above and beyond to meet a certain client's needs?
Yeah, I think that that's all the time. I mean, we've kind of set the expectation here. One of our core values is taking responsibility. And so, whether that means chasing down a signature that's not your job by calling a lien holder that, maybe escrow can do it, but you're the one who does that. Maybe it means setting up a car rental so that when somebody lands, they have a rental. Maybe it's chasing down, helping somebody find a pilot that's last minute. They need a contract pilot, helping somebody find parts. So just last week, I had sold an airplane to somebody, and then they were looking for parts, and I was able to put them in touch with Dodson, and get the actual part that they needed. I have another client that's not even a client; they're just someone who inquired on one of our jets last year and said he might be open to an investment opportunity. Here we are a year later, and I put him in touch with a charter operator that's looking for an investor. So sometimes it's not even like in the moment, but it's keeping people top of mind throughout your career that you're able to remember and then double back to, and it makes a difference.
Yes, sir. And even too, like even if it's not even about money, like you said, like even after you sold the aircraft, you still went out of your way to help your client
Hmm.
get the part he needed and such. And so, talking about like meeting clients' expectations and such, and helping them after a deal. Um, so, how would you handle a situation where something needed to be adjusted due to an unexpected circumstance?
So, in terms of handling something unexpected, I remember one of my first deals where during the pre buy, one of the mechanics knocked over a canister and punctured a hole in the nose of the jet.
Oh,
And so, fortunately, it wasn't in a pressurized section, and it was small enough that they could just patch it up. We lost that current buyer, but we had somebody waiting in the wings to come in if something had got wrong. Now, obviously, the price had to be considered, but I mean, that's an example where we had to make a change. Same thing, more recently, one of my brokers, his first deal, something unexpected kept happening almost every single day. It went through pre-buy and they found something wrong with it. Then it was fixed and then something else came wrong with it. Then it was fixed and then something else went wrong with it. Finally get to the point where we're ready to close. There's a hurricane or a tornado in Oklahoma City, so escrow had to be shut down and we had to delay it for the next day. And so, I mean, you're dealing with unexpected situations on a regular basis. You just get really good at it.
yes, sir. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things about business aviation too. Like a lot of it's unregulated, so you just got to make your own path and such to work around the circumstances.
Yeah, and that's where, having a mentor, having a coach, having someone that you can go to, or having a community where you can say, "Hey, this just happened. What do I do about it?" I think that's really, really important, and that's why we have the Circle community that's open to anyone. You don't have to work for Jet Life Aero to be a part of it, or if you want to be a part of Jet Life Aero, then we have the even smaller inner circle. Where I'm physically helping and mentoring people through those deals.
Yes, sir. And so I know, like, talking about the communication such with the community, what do you think would be some of the best practices for maintaining excellent communication with fellow brokers and such and clients?
I think just being present and showing up and basically asking the question, how can I help? I just remember family dinners for the holidays when I was growing up. And as soon as my mom would show up, at somebody else's house, she would walk into the kitchen and she would say, how can I help? What needs to be done? And I guess that's something that I kind of took with me whenever I find myself in a situation, I just want to ask, how can I help? What can I do? And it's a two-way street because somebody has to be willing to accept the help, but you also have to ask. And so I think being present where conversations are happening, whether that's online, LinkedIn, Reddit, the Circle community with Jet Life Aero, wherever it is, be present where the conversations are happening, and then just find an opportunity to help. And then actually follow through because a lot of people will call me and they want to know, how do I become a jet broker? And one of the first things I tell them, are you part of the Circle community? And if they say yes, sometimes I'm like, well, I haven't seen you in there in a while. Like, what's the story? Where are you? And I tell everybody, like, ask questions in there. And I'd say probably 10% of the people that I encourage to do it, they say, oh yeah, I'll do it. They only 10% do it. And those are the people that are going to get my attention. And those are the people that are going to get my help. So put yourself out there, ask how I can help, and then ask for help, and people will help. But you can't just, expect someone to, upload their knowledge into you. You just download it, and then you become this phenomenal broker. It takes work.
Yes, sir. I agree. I think that's a great point to, I think, end on. I mean, going there, I mean, just, you have to go out, you have to make those connections. You have to, you know, uh, join communities. You can't go edit on your own in the business aviation world and such. You need to have like a team to help you out. I just want to say thank you for joining this call today and joining the little conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It was my pleasure, Patterson. I look forward to, what AVLINK has to offer. I thank you again and the aspiring broker community. And if I can be a support to anybody, please have them reach out to me. I mean, have them join the Circle community at circle.jetlifearrow.com. They can check out the Ultimate Jet Guide book on Amazon if they want to learn more about aviation. And I wish you guys all the best success.